Under our Constitution, we are prohibited from establishing religion, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what the establishment
So
says.
if you have members of Congress that are legislating laws in accordance with their faith in regards to abortion or LGBTQ or women or any of those things, that should be prohibited within our Constitution.
You are not allowed to impose, through the government, your religious beliefs on others. That is not what religious freedom is about. That's not what our country rests on.
Yeah. For many of us, religious freedom is extremely important. It is life and death in this country. Yes. Many of us fled our countries to come to the United States because that is the one thing that distinguishes us from many countries. But it's also important that we have a secular government and protect people's civil rights and access to those civil rights. So
you are about to watch Ilhan Omar walk into not one, but two congressional hearings thinking she was going to lecture everyone into submission and get her clock cleaned twice in the same day. In the first hearing, she tried to argue that any lawmaker who votes according to their faith is violating the Constitution, basically trying to ban religious Americans from having a voice in their own government. In the second hearing, she went after India, the world's largest democracy and a key American ally, and compared their court-ordered citizenship process to the lead-up to a genocide. Both times, the witnesses came loaded with facts, stayed cool as ice, and dismantled every single talking point she brought to the table. This woman came armed with radical ideology and left with nothing but embarrassment. If you are sick and tired of radical congresswomen using congressional hearings as a stage to push an anti-American, anti-faith, anti-ally agenda, this video is for you. Smash that like button, subscribe right now, and do not go anywhere because after the clip we are breaking down every single moment these witnesses made Ilhan Omar look completely out of her depth. Let's get into it.
Ambassador Wales, as you know, last month I let a letter to Ambassador Juster and Jones with you CC'd on it on the situation of Kashmir. Our partnership with India is strategic, but it's also based on our shared values of democracy, religious pluralism, and the respect of human rights. Under Modi and the BJP government, all of these mutual values have been threatened. And I think we have to understand the situation in Kashmir as part of an overall Hindu nationalism project of the BJP. So my first question to you is about the right of self-determination. Is the United States committed to emphasizing the centrality of Kashmir voices in determining the future of the Jammu and Kashmiri people?
I would disagree with the characterization that we don't have a values-based relationship with the government of Prime Minister Modi. And I would just underscore that Prime Minister Modi came in a consecutive term. He achieved a majority vote in a very diverse
we can agree to disagree on that. I just would like to understand if we are going to centralize the voices of the Kashmiri and
But just to provide context, I mean, the actions he took were approved in Parliament, including by members of the opposition. The Supreme Court is reviewing that decision. The High Court is reviewing habeas corpus petitions. The institutions of India's democracy are working. We absolutely believe that Kashmiri's voice needs to be heard, that in any restoration, when there is restoration of a of an assembly, when there are state assembly elections, that's the way for Kashmiris to be able to register their views, also in peaceful assembly. And so I think the concern over the restrictions on movement and what we've seen over the last 78 days is that ability to protest peacefully has been difficult for Kashmiris to exercise.
Yeah. I mean, and the part of the reason I asked and the part of the reason I emphasized the context of the larger BGP project is because I think in both cases, the impunity we have seen for crimes against Muslims under the BJP was warming for such worse things to come. In Assam, almost 2 million people are being asked to affirmably approve their citizenship. As my colleague and the chairman said, there have been official statements to the effect that no Buddhist, Christian, Sikh, or Jain refugees need to worry about their status, And so this is a clear anti-Muslim program. And I'm sure you've seen the same reports that the Indian government is starting to build camps in Assam, presumably to hold those who are unable to prove their citizenship. This is how the Rohingya genocide started. At what point do we no longer share values with India? Are we waiting for the Muslims in Assam to be put in those camps?
The certification of citizenship in Assam dates to a 2013 Supreme Court ruling that ordered the government to do so, to address questions of illegal immigration. The process, which continues to unfold and continues to be challenged in the court, it now has 1.9 million people who have not been certified. And that includes both Muslims and Hindus. There are 300 appeal panels that are being set up for those individuals to appeal this determination. And as my colleague stated, we're concerned that many of these individuals who may not have the wealth or the education to successfully be able to document their citizenship are vulnerable. We will continue to watch this very closely, but I would stress that the appeal process is still open. The judicial process is still working in India. And as a democracy, we respect other democracies' abilities to self-police and self-regulate. And so this process is underway. Our voices have been heard. Your voice is going to be heard. Obviously, there's international attention focused on this national citizenship registration.
Let's start with the religion hearing, because what Omar said there should alarm every single American who believes in the First Amendment.
She didn't ask a constitutional question. She laid a trap.
She wanted the witness to agree that any lawmaker whose faith informs their vote is somehow violating the Constitution. That is not a legal argument. That is an ideological purge dressed up as jurisprudence. She wanted to stand up in Congress and declare that religious Americans have no business making laws in their own country.
Miss Laser saw right through it and shut it down cleanly.
Because here is the truth Omar refuses to accept. A secular government means the government doesn't pick a religion. It does not mean people of faith get stripped of their voice. Voting your conscience is not establishing a theocracy.
It is called being a citizen.
Omar's vision of America is one where your faith disqualifies you from public life. That is not freedom. That is discrimination with a progressive label slapped on it. Then she moved to the India hearing and turned the volume up even higher. She compared a court-ordered citizenship verification process in the world's largest democracy to the lead-up to the Rohingya genocide.
Let that sink in.
She compared India, a country with an independent Supreme Court, a functioning opposition, and constitutional protections, to Myanmar.
That is not concern for human rights.
That is a calculated smear against a critical American ally delivered from a congressional podium.
Ambassador Wells didn't panic. She came with facts.
The NRC in Assam was ordered by India's own Supreme Court. The excluded population includes both Hindus and Muslims.
There are 300 appeal panels. The judicial process is still running.
Every single pillar of Omar's genocide narrative collapsed the moment Wells opened her mouth. And that closing line about respecting democracy's ability to self-police?
That was the MIC drop.
That is what serious foreign policy sounds like, not inflaming tensions with an ally of over 1 billion people because it scores points with a radical base back home. Omar came to both hearings with an agenda, not questions.
She got facts both times.
And America saw exactly who was serious in that room and who was performing.